again, it's Wednesday afternoon here in Europe, and it's time for the Android Developers Office Hours. I'm Sparky in Munich, Germany. I'm joined by Rich and Matt in London, UK. Rich and... I'm sorry.
Matt this week. Matt's off in Amsterdam, I think, at a...
J something conf... I don't know. A Java conference in Holland.
Matt in a really, really convincing Nick costume.
Very good. Yeah, hi there from England as well. Welcome to this week's Office Hours. As usual, we won't be talking about anything that's not previously been announced, but fortunately...
Things that have been announced.
Quite a lot has been announced. Finally. We almost pre-announced it 2 weeks ago when this started ringing in my pocket. I was like, oh no, let's not do that. But we didn't, and now we are free to talk about some of the awesome new Android devices that are available on the Play Store.
But since you're all developers, you'd much rather talk about developing and writing apps than the new devices, right?
Well, I'm glad you said that, Sparky, because there's some amazing new APIs as well in Android 4.2. Hopefully we'll be able to touch on those over the next hour as well. Welcome to all the people who have joined us in the Hangout Live. Good to see some familiar faces there, and some new ones, and a jelly bean, and a piece of art. Guess we should get started. Does anyone in the Hangout have any questions for us today?
My one's kind of a big can of worms. How's multi-user handled with respect to external storage?
Okay, so first of all, Al, congratulations on changing your lower third. I see that you are now a member of EMEA, the Kickstarter Android console gaming awesomeness that hopefully we will all be using soon. Multi-user, so going straight into one of the new features of Android 4.2. On the Nexus 10, it comes with multi-user support. I do have multi-user on here at the moment. I can switch between two of my profiles. Regarding external storage...
Yeah, a lot of people have been using it to just basically as a temporary dump area for large files, and a lot of applications I've seen do that. What happens if you've got the same application that's running under two different users? Is the application going to see the same area for those two users, and hence
each user will see a different view of the data. Like, so if you ask for get external storage, they'll actually get return something different.
Cool. So we've got user separation at that level.
I believe that the hard-coded string / SD card has been grandfathered in as well. So if you were doing it wrong, like please, don't do that. But I think we've catered for that as well.
But at the same time, each app will only be installed once on the device. So if you do install an application and then another user goes to install it, it will just instantly be installed. So you don't have to duplicate all the actual application and apps data. It's just the user-specific data.
So it should be
their own private area.
Yeah, from a developer point of view, it should be transparent to you. Like, you shouldn't have to write any special code for handling multiple users.
Cool. So when you've got two users, will each user see the applications the other one's installed?
No. You get to go and install the application, and if it is already installed, it will just enable it for you. But you don't get to see what the other person has installed now.
Cool. Thanks.
Boy, do I appreciate that. I remember back in the day we had a sort of a semi-proprietary fork of Eclipse that could only be installed per user on Windows NT or Windows 32 NT XP, whatever. And man, installing Eclipse separately for every user account that you wanted it on, ouch. I'm glad we don't have to do that.
Okay, anything else from inside the Hangout? And welcome to whoever just joined us. I heard a ping. No?
Everyone catch the announcements this week about Android 4.2 and the Nexus 4 and Nexus 10? Anyone planning on...
What?
Anyone planning on picking one up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just nods generally across the bottom of the Hangout. Like, yeah, I'll pick one up. Price points are very, very competitive, I've got to say.
And the resolution on the 10 seems incredible. Is it really noticeably crisper than other 10-inch tablets?
Text rendering for me is beautiful.
My favorite example is I bring up a reader app like, for instance, The Economist, and I pull up the exact same article on the Nexus 10 and one of the older generation, like a Zoom or a Galaxy Tab, and just look at the rendering of the article on those two tablets side by side, and you'll be convinced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're almost up to print PPIs now.
Cool.
It's incredible.
If you look at Ramongi's latest post, I think at the moment, he's got a photo of the corner of the screen, and you wouldn't believe that it's kind of not superimposed image on top. It's just phenomenal, and it's that good. Beautiful.
Okay, that's one sale made. Another quick question. Do you know anything about the 4.2 running on the Nexus 7 itself? The 3G version was announced. So
Hold on a sec there, Al. Just jump on a mute here. There we go. Go on, say that again, please, Al.
The 3G version of the Nexus 7 was announced. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play with it, but is it in the territory where you get multi-user on it, or is it considered a non-tablet device and you don't get multi-user?
I don't know the answer.
I think it's not running multi-user right now.
The only device I know that's got multi-user at the moment is the Nexus 10. I haven't seen it on the Nexus 7, but it's a good question. I will try and resolve that for you.
Thanks.
In the chat window down the side, Patrick has... oh no, someone before that. Francisco, what do you think about the battery life of the Nexus 10 and the Nexus 4? Thanks. Taking those separately, Nexus 10 has got an insanely long standby life.
I think you can leave it for 3 months on standby. Someone told me once.
Someone
I don't know if
did
they've
mention
tested that. I don't think we've had them
We
that
haven't
long.
had them for 3
But based
months.
on the draw and the capacity.
Yes. Generally, yeah, very, very good battery lives, very large batteries in them, and good power efficiency from the chips we're seeing. And the Nexus 4 we've both been using as our main phones for a while now. And
When not at DroidCon.
when not at DroidCon. Bigger batteries than all the previous Nexus handset devices, and more efficient operating system has made, for me, a device that easily gets through a day. But we'll just have to see when you pick yours up what you think about them.
And silly things like the inductive charging is amazing. So I have an inductive charger on my desk and on my bedside table. And so every time I sit down, I just put the phone down and it's charging. So it stays charged because it's so easy. I don't have to think about plugging it in or unplugging it when I get up. I just put it down and pick it up.
Does the 10 have inductive charging as well?
No,
It's only the 4.
just the 4.
Cool.
So mine's currently sat at 82% full after 6 hours and 14 minutes without any charge. Not that you can see that, but it's doing very well right now.
I mean, really the make or break is whether it gets through a day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't had that problem with it yet. I was concerned about switching to a device that doesn't have a removable battery, but the trade-off being that it has a bigger battery inside it, and of course it has inductive charging coils somewhere in the back, I guess, which between the back and the battery. And I've been happy with it.
I love mine.
No issues at all. Yeah, I love it. Super
What's the inductive charging like? Is it just as quick? Well, obviously it won't be as quick, but is it still pretty speedy compared to like a cable?
I don't really know. Yeah, I think so. I tend to put it down overnight and it's charged.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were just going to put it down for an hour, would it do a full battery charge? I'm not sure. I can't think.
I really want someone out to bring a really nice range of furniture with inductive charging built into it. Coffee tables with little inductive charging points in the corners and things, so you can just don't have to have these wires around.
Nokia did a pillow for their Lumia for inductive charging, and you kind of sit there and think, what would you do carrying this phone around on a pillow? It looks like something from the royal household, yeah.
So yeah, the other thing is the games on the Nexus 10 look amazing.
Oh, that's really
Some
nice.
of the EA games, Mass Effect Infiltrator, Need for Speed Most Wanted, just looked insane at 2500. And the scary thing is when you use the HDMI out or wireless display, it has to scale down for a full HD TV. Scale it down to 1080p. So it's absolutely flying as well. Very good frame rates on it.
Yeah, I've got a massive 30-inch monitor sat on my desk and it's got the same resolution as that.
10-inch tablet.
Honestly,
The A15 chip cooks, not in a hot way.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some development questions. Unless there's one more in the...
Yeah, in the sidebar, Patrick, I'm probably saying it wrong, a question about screen sharing in 4.2. Will it require some kind of device in between? So yeah, it's based on Miracast, is the wireless screen sharing, I guess what you're talking about. So if your TV supports Miracast, which I'm not sure if there are any out there now, but I hear it's an emerging standard of which people are going to adopt, then the answer would be no. Until then, I believe there's a range of dongles either on the market now or coming out which you can use to kind of retrofit that Miracast support into your kind of existing TV. So yeah, right now the answer is probably most people will have to buy some kind of dongle to do that, but in the future, hopefully no additional devices required.
Yeah, you mentioned standards like DLNA, but usually they just do media streaming, sharing of videos and audio. They won't allow entire desktop sharing of the device. Whereas this is, you can do mirroring, or you can send a separate stream to the second screen. Now in Android 4.2 with the second screen APIs, you get notified when a second screen plugged in or connected, and you can send a completely separate set of views to that screen.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that DLNA is based on, it piggybacks on an existing network, whereas Miracast, I believe, is built on top of Wi-Fi Direct. So you can have a direct connection between, say, your TV and your device without having to have another Wi-Fi, access point in between, which is kind of cool.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I see. Pavel has asked us an actual programming question. What is the density screen size bucket for N10, and will we see more buckets introduced in the near future? Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it would be an extra large XHDPI. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And as of API level 16, there exists a constant for XXHDPI, but we haven't really done a lot with it. No.
So I had a post on Google Plus yesterday, which some people might have seen, saying that yes, the tablet is an X-large XHDPI screen, but the launcher on our tablet devices picks a launcher icon for your app from one density bucket up, so that it can render it slightly larger, so you have a larger icon in launcher and on the home screen. So for that reason, yeah, you need to provide an XHDPI icon in order to get a really beautifully crisp icon.
I got a kind of development question. It's one that you might not be able to answer. So, do you know when the 4.2 SDK is going to be available?
Generally, historically, it tends to get shipped when we launch a device or open source or release the factory image. So historically, that's what has happened. So when that happens, I guess, but I don't have a date.
Okay. Yes, you'll see XXHDPI.
Right.
Where will it end?
I believe that's nominally 480 dpi. Is that right?
480, yeah. That's another thing. Actually, XX is just I guess a redirect for a number. I think it gets even turned into 480 dpi by AAPT. Yeah. By AAPT, so you can actually just use drawable-480 dpi rather than drawable-XXHDPI.
It's nothing like being prepared for the future.
Yeah, well, a couple of benefits, it's like where's it going to end if you keep on adding X's, is kind of silly. But the other thing is also it makes your resources nice and ordered in Eclipse.
Does anyone know what the DPI of the new HTC device was? The 1080p 5-inch?
The actual, I think, was 440.
Okay, so still not quite 480.
But that said, I mean these are all they're kind of elastic ranges. So it may very well be that something with an actual density of 440 might sort into the 480 bucket anyway. It might be an XX.
Sure.
Fair enough. One of the other nice features of 4.2 is when you're developing for multiple screens, you can put a virtual second screen on your device and see what it will render like inside your application. So in the developer settings, there's now a new setting, which I'll bring up in the developer options for...
Yeah, this is one of the APIs I'm really excited about, actually having an actual API to draw something separately to a secondary screen, so you can have your game controls on your phone and the game output up on your big TV.
You can't really see it, but you can simulate a second screen here on side your screen, and the second screen would be what appears onto the TV set or the other screen that you're connected to.
Yeah, so you can develop against that without having to have second screens and stuff.
So now how long do we have to wait for Nexus DS?
What's that? I don't get it, Sparky.
Dual screen.
Oh. Is that what DS stood for in the Nintendo? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Go figure. Okay, so should we hit the moderator and get on with some of the questions for this week?
Unless we've got a few new joiners, any other questions from people in the Hangout?
You hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, hey, you'll see. Yep.
Yeah, I had a few questions. First of all, I wanted to try something with the Google Calendar. and maybe do something very, very simple, but without using without showing an intent to the user, and basically schedule an appointment into the calendar.
Yep.
Is it? I know it's possible. I saw some code, but is it considered a good convention, or I must show the user the exact appointment I'm scheduling before I schedule?
Depends, really. Like if you have a screen basically showing the same information that would go into the create event screen, then I think it's fine to just have that within your UI and have it add to calendar or just snap it out to the calendar. If you're just basically recreating what the calendar UI shows, then I would probably say just use the intent.
No, the basic idea was to just use the calendar as a sort of a timestamp for actions you do, like went to the market 10:15, answer the phone 10:20, and so on and so on. Just use it as a timestamp to all events you want to record on your.
So you probably would create your own calendar. So you probably wouldn't want to like write those into the user's kind of like Google Calendar or whatever. You probably want to create your own Uvu or whatever calendar, and then create your events in that. So then the user can wholesale turn that calendar on and off, and hide and show those events. I think it probably sounds like a good solution. There's actually a great article on grokking Android, if you know that blog, by Wolfram. He's just been doing a couple of posts lately about working with the calendar. So I encourage you to check those out.
And Ayosha had an example, right? When you added that, when you pinned an item from the conference, it puts it into your calendar as well.
Yeah, there's a sample code in the Google I/O app as well.
Okay, I'll check it. Thanks.
Just wonder what you guys thought of the photospheres that you've been seeing on Google+. Did you see Hugo's video on how to create a photosphere from outside Building 44?
I saw yours. You put 2 up, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a couple more last night as well, but I haven't posted them yet. I might do one from this Hangout, so you can get to see everything in the room. And then, what are we both looking at on the wall? It'll be a big blank thing. It's a good point. I could do one. I know, just do a 2/3 photosphere. That's photo hemisphere. Okay. I was just looking through the what's new for Android 4.2, and of course, photospheres is right at the top.
So you guys know that the right way to make photosphere is not to turn your body around, right? If you swivel your body around and move the phone in a cylinder, you're going to get parallax effects that make for bad stitching. If you want it to stitch properly, you need to actually pivot the camera around the focal point of the lens.
But then you're going to get your own face in it. The strip of your head.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's going to depend on how far away the thing is that you're making the photosphere of. So the ones I've taken from very large buildings and outside don't seem to have that problem. I guess the ones I've taken in the office maybe have more of that from... you have to be slightly more careful taking it.
That's exactly right. The parallax is way worse on nearby objects.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Can we move to the moderator now? Excellent.
I have not had as much time to go through the moderator this week as I usually do. Fortunately, some of the other readers have done it for me.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Cheers, guys.
Chris has contributed some answers, so thanks, Chris. Yes. I'm writing an app that listens to incoming SMS, and if the SMS contains special text, I want to prevent it from being received by third-party apps, e.g. Handsent. I tried abort broadcast and setting Android priority. It didn't work. How can I do this? And Chris basically said that these other applications all set their receivers to maximum priority, which means they get it first. So there's no way that you can deterministically jump in line in front of them. In other words, sorry, but no. So.
Unless you want to overflow in.
Unless you want to overflow. Yeah, I mean, why should you get
the moderator is a question from Nick Butcher. It's not really a question.
Nah. Oh, sorry, I put that in there because we had a problem with the GDL event and we couldn't update it with the links, so I added it in the moderator so it'd appear on the right page.
And it did the job, because without that, I wouldn't be here. Is there a way to alter the standard font used, say Roboto Light, across a whole application, including action bar, etc.? Or do you have to do this manually in each activity and fragment? This is by Chris, and he also says, changing the font is fairly difficult. Jelly Bean allows you to use Roboto Light condensed via the new font family XML attribute. Pre-Jelly Bean, you need to create the typeface and set it in code. Then he goes on to say, I'd like to create a custom text view and override set typeface to inject your custom font. Then use that text view instead of the standard one. I don't know. Nick, what do you think of that?
I don't know a better way of doing it across the entire application in one fell swoop.
You could do it in Jelly Bean, not too bad. You could basically use the style, create a custom style, right, where you find out where the font family is set and override it.
Just go sans serif light or.
Yeah, to using the font family thing, but to retrofit that onto a pre-Jelly Bean world, yeah, it's not going to be easy.
I know last week I talked about sticking, animate layout attributes in the style at the top level. Would this work or would this not work for that?
So yeah, that would totally work in the post-Jelly Bean world where you can set the font family attribute for the entire thing, but in pre-Jelly Bean, before the font family attribute, no. But why would you ever want to do that? I think part of the reason like an action bar and everything is good is because it's familiar. If you start wholesale changing everything. Is this your question, Chris?
No, I understand.
Another Chris in London, and then answered by another Chris in London. I thought it was a conversation with yourself perhaps going on.
What can I say? I'm schematically minded. I'm an engineer, not an artist, and I would never want to screw with the stock UI.
Yeah.
I just want the app to do what it does. I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah. This is setting off alarm bells. This question. Question why you need to do this is my advice.
Okay.
Peter in Belgium says, I'm integrating a +1 button, but I want to use a token returned by Google auth-util.get token with one of the scopes, Google APIs /auth/plus.me. But a first +1 interaction still shows an extra authorization dialog. Is this possible? I presume he means, is it possible to show it without getting an authorization?
To reuse the auth token, yeah, so they don't need to get the second authorization dialog. I would slopey shoulders that straight off to the Google Plus developer office hours. They manage their own APIs and libraries and things. I haven't put a +1 button in my app yet. I know, right? Why are you supposed to put a +1 button for your whole app? You're supposed to put the +1 button on the things that have real-world URLs.
Right. You can +1 the whole app.
You can +1 the whole app, and it would +1 the app listing in the Play Store.
The Play Store URL, yeah.
But I think it'd be more beneficial if you had a recipes app and you were +1ing the recipes and the recipes on the web. Yeah. You know, it was that link, because then someone sees the +1 in Google Plus and they can click on it, and there's somewhere to go to.
Got it.
I don't know. Makes more sense.
+1 all the things.
I haven't tried it though. +1ing your app with the Play Store URL seems like a very good thing to do too, though.
Yeah, I can see that being in your about screen or something like that. If you had some kind of screen like that, you could have a little +1 button.
All of this is speculation, of course, because we haven't actually tried it. Google Plus developer office hours from developers.google.com/live.
That's right. Very good, guys. We've got a couple new people in the Hangout. Welcome, newcomers. Do you have anything that you would like to bring up for discussion?
I recognise Leslie there in the purple shirt. Hey there. Good to see you. Any questions this week, Leslie? No. Yes. No. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Next muffin.
Is it any best practices guidelines? Are there best practices or guidelines for using Roboto Light, sans serif Light, font family in the app, combining with other font families? For instance, using light font family for headers, big text, and normal for ordinary text.
So
people physically sick.
Yeah, we don't have any official guidelines yet. It's something I'd like to see us lead on a little bit better. In my personal opinion, I like it for big text, so like headers, like you say there. I think it can work really well to to provide some contrast and relief by using Roboto Light, and also for secondary text as well. So if there's a piece of information which isn't of primary importance, rather than using a different font color or size per se, you can use a different weight to give it relative importance. My caution there is using light fonts at smaller sizes might end up affecting legibility, especially on smaller screens. So be cautious with using it too much. So I'd say stick with Roboto normal weight for most of your body text, as it were, because that's a font that's been optimized for most of these like general reading operations, and it works for a variety of densities. And then use something like Roboto Light or Thin, in less often in kind of like places to give relief.
Right. So use the lighter weight typefaces in the larger sizes where they won't get anti-aliased away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know from pretty much the earliest days of WYSIWYG typography, the general guidance has been use multiple appearances in your type sparingly. Think accent, not mishmash. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, there were definitely times early on when I was like, ooh, this computer has 25 fonts. I must use every one in my document. Otherwise, I might be missing an opportunity. I think the opportunity I missed was legibility.
Yeah, well, one of the things I always think as well, that a screen can get too busy if you have multiple font sizes. So I've seen screens where people are trying to use the size of font to basically determine the importance of the information. So you might have like a headline in a list item and then some secondary text, and then there might be like a count in a third font size and so on. And that can get really busy if you're basically having all these different line heights. Essentially it doesn't really scan very easily. It's quite hard to process. It makes you think about it more. So what you can do instead is either use color or even a lighter font face, so you maintain the same kind of line height or X height, and just have some slight contrast in the weight of the font instead, so it makes it a bit easier to read.
Yeah. I think a lot of HTML renderers are kind of annoying in the way they deal with H1, H2, H3, H4, etc. because they do scale in size and weight quite a lot, and it kind of makes for a little busy appearance. So,
Cool.
all right.
Okay. So before we move on to the next one other nice new developer API that's come along with Android 4.2 is the Daydream. We now have, I guess, a similar concept to screensavers. When the device is plugged in or docked, or inductively charging, the device will kind of go to sleep, and you can choose what's going to be on the screen at that time, whether it's going to be the weather forecasts or news. But of course, your applications can make use of these APIs to show your own data as well. The user can choose to have your own Daydream showing up on the screen. Right now, I have one from Currents.
I love the photo stream. Yeah.
And you can see the not very well. We definitely, when we get off studio, need to have the HDMI in on here.
Yeah.
You can interact with the currents as well as they're coming across onto the screen and see all the latest news. It just sits there whilst it's charging, giving you the latest update information. It's a similar API to live wallpapers, and you'll be seeing that in the SDK when it comes out.
It's called Daydreams, or Daydreams is the consumer feature. I think it's just called Dream in the SDK. So once the 4.2 SDK comes out, search for Dream. In fact, there's already in the compatibility SDK. There's a basic Dream in there, which you can probably take a look at and have a look at some of the APIs it offers. It's going to be similar to something like the widget. It's this kind of like pervasive awareness. So if your application is, updating the background and offering up new content, it's another way to surface that. It's kind of cool. You can see it, someone's like a big, football fan or something like that. You might have transfer news or something. Whenever you put your phone down and it's charging, you might just kind of bubble that up. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I've switched between having the weather on mine, the weather forecasts, and the news. It's quite nice just to see things going past that you're interested in. Very configurable as well. What was the name? Oh, we've seen that. Okay. Next.
Pavel's got a question in sidebar. He says, still no love for 3D camera in the Nexus line. I don't want the 3D images. I just want to see the depth of vision. Interesting. Well, I've got a lovely LG G Slate tablet that it's got 3D on it.
They released an SDK for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there was
it's a proprietary.
Yeah.
It's quite funny that every OEM who produced a 3D device never followed it up with a second device in the same line. The Optimus 3D was a one-off. This LG Slate was a one-off. There was an HTC phone as well that was a one-off. So I got the feeling it didn't work well.
LG did have the second in the Optimus 3D phone range at Barcelona this year. I just never really saw it launch. But at least it was thinner. It didn't have that big bulk on the back for the two cameras. I wonder what happens to that.
Still made my brain hurt after a little while.
Still made your brain hurt if you looked at that screen and didn't just freeze.
But yeah, if you're really passionate about that, I guess the things you could do would be petition LG to contribute it to AOSP, perhaps. Beyond that, right one.
As far as just having a field or something, what could you use for that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe infer something from focus, or that would be interesting. Maybe just try to get the focal distance out of the camera API or something.
Yeah, it's not about it. I'm interested in like getting the device. It's fairly easy to get a device, but I would like to see this kind of sensor to be more widespread.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I ask about this eventually be included in the future Nexus devices, because if it's under 1% of the market share, what's the point of creating application for such type of use case?
That's a very valid question.
If the sensor is everywhere, then yeah, applications will come.
Petition Mr. Rubin.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the place where you'd expect it to take off first would be on the 3D TVs and consoles and things like that. If it was going to, they've had a lot of chance for it to happen. As yet, it hasn't really. My best experience with that has been Gran Turismo 5 on a PlayStation with a 3D TV. That's pretty involving. And other people in the room jumped when we crashed, although with their 3D glasses on. But I think still needs another step change in 3D technologies for.
Oh, it's a screen thing. I thought it was a camera thing, so you can see the depth of.
But
yeah, you can really create amazing concept. Like if you typing SMS while you're running, you can get warning like a red background if you are nearing an obstacle, so you save your face.
Typing an SMS while you're running.
That would be so much
you and on me.
comedy value.
We need a Google voice input filter for panting. And you can speak to it whilst you're running, and it just takes all the deep breathing out of it.
I'd wait for the Google Now card to pop up that says you're about to run into something in 30 seconds.
30 seconds? That's pretty slow. Or either you're running really slowly. That moment in Austin Powers when he's like, no, and then doesn't get run over.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Next muffin.
Where are we now, Sparky?
Next question, the moderator. I am trying to monitor the CPU usage of running processes by running the command adb shell top. It works well in general, but when testing an app that plays music, CPU usage for the process of running the service stays at 0%. Also on Stack Overflow, link included. I suppose that's probably because it's being handed off to hardware. You know, you queue up a sample, you hand it off to the audio subsystem, and the CPU can step back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just not handling.
Sounds right to you?
Top's not representing the GPU or any of the other accelerators.
The other thing would be that, as well as handing it off to the service, if it's not a rooted device, ADB shell top may not show you all the processes running.
Mm-hmm.
Also true, yeah. You won't see systems necessarily.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Could be worth testing on a rooted device to see if you do get any extra information that's relevant. So the next one, could you please suggest a way to create a video of your app/game? We've had this 3 or 4 times in the past on the office hours. The recommendations are buy a Nexus 4 with wireless display and an HDMI recorder.
I was going to say, I just take my phone and I point it at the screen and hold still. There.
So the most recent videos I've made have been using the hardware accelerated and OpenGL accelerated emulators. That seems to work very well for me. And then screen capturing software on whatever system you're using to create the video. Otherwise, you can use HDMI recorders and a device with HDMI out. That works very well as well. Blackmagic has some great boxes for that kind of thing. But the cheapest way would be to use
2 devices.
Yeah, using two devices. Taking a video of a screen isn't ideal, of course.
Yeah, your best results are always going to be HDMI capture. Second best is probably going to be emulator, and then using screen capture.
I would suggest those.
Emulator or something like BlueStacks, perhaps even, so you can run it on your host machine.
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't even thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he suggests Android screencast. I agree, Android screencast. Anything that's using ADB for screen capturing is going to be a little bit on the sluggish side, maybe 1 or 2 frames a second.
Yeah.
So I'd probably steer clear of that.
I haven't really messed around with BlueStack at all. How well does it work?
Sorry?
The BlueStacks, how well does that work? Because I haven't really tried it.
Anybody? Anybody tried BlueStacks? Al must have done.
I've played around with an early alpha version of it, and it was a little sluggish and a little slow. They may have improved it since then, but
could use Andro VM.
Yep.
Guys at Genie Mobile were talking about it at DroidCon last week.
It's true.
And Gen Y Mobile. Genie.
Was it Andro VM? Is that the answer? It's a VirtualBox based.
Yeah. Android VM.
VM. Yeah.
And there was also a product from a company called Lumitrade at DroidCon, which was kind of a cradle for a camera that would sit over the top of the phone, so you could lay the phone flat and then just record straight from that camera, and that's about €250, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you obviously get the finger in the way, so it depends on what you want. If you want to demonstrate people interacting, then that's one thing. I quite like the product videos which use the show touches thing. So if you do HDMI out capture, turn on show touches from the developer menu, then you get a little like translucent white dot where you're touching, which I think comes out quite well in product videos.
See, Yossi has provided the URL for androvm.org. Thanks for that, Yossi.
Cool. Question here: will the third-party app widgets be able to hook into 4.2's new lock screen functionality, or is it limited to system apps? How many are possible per lock screen, assuming we will get in the first place?
I don't think we have a definitive answer on that one right yet.
Mm-hmm.
That one's a little...
Sorry, Sparky?
Oh.
Sparky was just about to answer the question. Maybe he had the answer before dropping out.
The answer was 42, no?
42, was that the answer? 4.2. You've got to read something into that. But yes, there'll be a developer API. You'll be able to add lock screen widgets, similar to home screen widgets. I haven't seen the API myself yet, so I can't really comment any more than that. Moving on.
Okay. I'm trying to set the scroll position in a remote list view on an app widget without any scrolling animation. Unfortunately, the usual set selection position is not remotable. Any hints on how to achieve this? Is it even possible? Mr. Widget, have you done this?
The scroll position on a remote list view on an app widget. Nope, I have not done that. Without any scrolling animation. Unfortunately, the usual set selection is not remotable. No, I'd have to try that out. You could ask it on Stack Overflow. Sorry, is that Chris?
I don't think you can, because the list view runs in Launcher, and so you can't get access to that at all. So yeah. I can't think of a way you can do it.
But he seems to be implying that you can scroll it with a scrolling animation.
I didn't think you could do that, but I don't know.
I just wonder if you can reinitialize the widget at a different position.
Yeah, you can, but not without the scrolling animation.
Can you override the animation?
Didn't try that. The best thing we did was imitate a scrolling list.
Oh.
Yeah, so to avoid the scrolling animation, we did divided the widget to 3 parts and show every time we show a different part on the to imitate the scrolling, basically.
Fair enough. Sounds like it's not particularly possible. It's unfortunate.
Anything new with the action bar in 4.2? I don't think so.
I haven't seen it in the what's new.
I have to wait for the final SDK and check the diff again, but I don't think so.
Nope. Okay. Sparky is going to join us as soon as he can. He's had some technical issues with his battery running out.
Okay. Does Nexus 7 support mirrorcasts?
No. It doesn't even support HDMI out, so it couldn't support mirrorcast.
The new version will support, no?
What, you think it needs MHL support?
It most likely needs the HDCP keys installed.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Which wouldn't be on if it's not HDMI enabled. So even if it did, it wouldn't be able to display protected content, which would stop it playing Google Play Movies and stuff. And it seems to be the device of choice for doing that kind of thing. So
true, but mirroring the screen and playing games on a TV using the device and things like that wouldn't require those necessarily. I don't know.
I also had a look at the Miracast list of approved devices, and it's not up there at the moment. There's currently only the Samsung Echo P TVs, which are yet to be released, the Nexus 4, Optimus G, and Galaxy S3.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say no for now, but if a new one comes out, because the new one that's launched with 3G has a different power controller in it, so it could in the future, but I wouldn't see it as possible in the short term.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any further comments on it than that. But I have lost my moderator.
Where are we up to?
Next page. My company is developing a Bluetooth low energy device. Will Android 4.2 support BLE in the SDK? Don't know. I think so. Haven't checked.
I think we have to wait till 4.2 launches to see what finally made the cut and what didn't.
I'm trying to... What could I do wrong? I get an illegal state exception with opening the options menu. The exception comes from add view in the phone window open panel. Did I somehow break the activity lifecycle? More details on Stack Overflow.
Yes.
You did somehow.
Sounds like you did.
The specified child already has a parent. You must call remove view on the parent first.
Huh? Sounds like, are you inflating a fragment or something? Are you inflating something that, I think when you're doing your inflation of something, you're doing it wrong.
Or you're trying to do it more than once.
I'm trying to read on Rich's screen.
That's something that, yeah, we should bounce that one into next week's office hours. That kind of question we need to get a little bit more in advance so that we can have a good look through the pages of stack traces and code that you've attached to the report. Doesn't make for good watching to do it live.
Yeah, to me, my first gut instinct is that you're probably inflating something that's already attached to something else. One of the parameters when you call inflator.inflate, the different XML stuff is you give it a parent and you say whether or not to attach it, and it sounds like you're saying passing a true when it's already attached to something, which would lead that to that error. Maybe you should just pass false. So whenever your menu options created, maybe.
We'll bounce that one to next week. That's fine. Who just joined us in the Hangout? Hugo! Hey there, Hugo. Good to see you. Have you got a question for us today?
Yeah, actually I have. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can hear you fine. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was at VHack this weekend.
Huh.
We were hacking on our food app, and it has a few list views with list boxes with the checkboxes.
Okay.
And I had some problems there with making the checkbox selected after the data is loaded. So I have a cursor loader which has load some stuff from the database.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to make it selected.
Mm-hmm.
At first it was a VHack, so I was hacking and doing ugly stuff in the adapter.
Yep.
But that didn't work on all devices for obvious reasons. And then in the end I settled with just loading the data through the cursor loader, and then after the data was loaded, iterating the cursor again to set the selected the checked item on the list view.
Yeah.
But it feels a little bit clunky, so I was wondering what's the proper way to do it, or is this the proper way to do it? Because I asked around to some other devs, and they, didn't really had a proper answer. So
you're extending simple cursor adapter, right?
Yeah.
So you're using your bind view method there, so that would be the right place to bind to whatever the cursor's data is to your UI, right?
Yeah, the thing, I did that, but then it messed up. Well, I think what happened there is that the checkbox is then maybe selected, but the list view itself doesn't know it's selected. for some reason. That was the impression that I got.
So you're trying to synchronize the state of a control within the list item with the selected state of the entire item.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to do, because what makes sense is that because you call set item checked, I guess, what the method is called on the list. So that reflects the state, and then the view also gets updated, which is quite nice. And likewise, if you touch a list item, then it's automatically reflected in the list. But yeah, I had some problems there, so I'm not sure how would you generally make sure that the list is in sync with your adapter and those kinds of things. Especially for things that are checked.
Yeah, so if the data in the adapter is changing outside of the list, then you've got to notify the list of what's going on. And if the user's pressing the item on the list, you've got to notify the adapter, or at least change the data set behind it of what's going on.
Yeah, actually the pressing on the list automatically works. There's nothing that you have to do for that. But my problem was loading the initial values from the cursor adapter, because it's loaded, and if I would set it on the view, it wouldn't. For some reason, it wouldn't reflect. I'm not sure, because again, it was hacking, so maybe I did something terribly wrong. But
what multi-select mode are you setting on the list? 'Cause it sounds like you've got multiple items.
Yeah, it was I set it to multi-select.
So you're setting it to multiple?
Yeah. So.
So are you loading all the data into the list once and then going around a second time for all the checkboxes then?
Well, I basically now did it on the what is it? The onload finished, or I'm not sure what's the method in the cursor loader itself. So what I eventually did, and what worked on all devices, was just to iterate the cursor again, see what's selected, and then call list set item check. But obviously, I don't think that's the proper way to do it, but I wasn't sure.
No, my gut feeling is you should be doing this in bind view.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, wait until you've got the data before you...
Okay, I'll just try it again and see if I can figure out what was the problem, if I have some more time for it.
So, Nick, is the Nexus 4 made of soap?
That was my 7 again. It survived this one, though. Yeah, it survived. Stop filling.
So it's still a Nexus 7, it's not a Nexus 6.5 now.
What was that came in on the chat window from Francisco? I want to buy the Nexus 4, but I don't know whether to buy now or in a couple of months.
Maybe Google
don't think you can buy now.
Oh yeah, we're certainly not going to. And then Yossi says you should override the bind view method. I agree.
I'd say by now. Like, I got the 8 gig one, and I haven't really been butting up against the storage limit. I don't play tons of big games. Probably get the 16 gig, be good enough.
I would get the 16 gig.
Are you talking about the Nexus 7?
Nexus 4s.
Okay. So I do have the 8 gig Nexus 7, and it's only got about 6 gigs of user accessible storage, and that goes fast. I mean, I think I've got probably 4 games, each of which has more than 1.5 gigs of extra data. So there you go. There's your storage.
Yeah, totally. I'm running a 16 gig Nexus 7, and I've got an 8 gig Nexus 4 as well, actually, and I haven't had any issues with it. But if I was buying one, I'd definitely go for the 16 for myself. I use a lot of the Google services, surprisingly enough. So a lot of my data's in the cloud.
Yeah, all my music's in Google Music and Spotify, so it's not much local.
That's the 11-hour flight to San Francisco to go to Mountain View that will be where you use it the most.
Yeah. Very true.
And the Google Play services have rolled out into more countries, or are rolling out into more countries, so you can buy movies and do things like that, aren't they?
Yeah, music's coming, movies coming. Movie purchases are coming, sorry, we already have movie rentals.
That's just brilliant.
So music's coming over?
Yeah, that got announced on Monday as well. I got missed in a slew of announcements, but yeah, music is coming to UK, Germany, France, Italy?
I can check, but yeah.
Can't remember. Check the blog post.
Europe.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really pleased.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. I just can't wait for that. I see a lot of the promotions that go on in Google Music on the US side, and some of the promotions are insanely good, and I wish I could buy them, and then I press it, and it doesn't work.
Especially if you guys like us kind of moving between devices, fairly often, then yeah, you don't have to have the pain of like moving all your music over or whatever. It just follows you around.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the cloud bit
Yeah.
for a while because I signed up via proxy. So,
sneaky. One top tip. Oh, you're going to say, sorry?
No, go on. What?
I always have this playlist called Offline on my Google Music, and whenever I sign into a new device, that's the one I just pin as offline. And then if I'm on the web or on any device and I move anything into the offline playlist, it instantly syncs down to all my devices, which is kind of cool. So if you buy a new track, I just set it to be in the playlist offline. Because I go on the London Underground a lot, I need offline music, so I can always set my playlist up, which is fun. Okay. Al says he's just read the blog post, and Google Play Music is heading to UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain this November.
Cool. Spain, that's what I missed.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Do we have anything left in the moderator?
Oh, Sparky.
I don't know what happened while I was offline.
I'm just looking now. There's one about a chronometer.
Oh, yeah?
I would like to use Roboto Light for the chronometer, but it seems the width for 0 in light differs from the other digits. Hence, there is some shifting when chronometer passes zeros. Is there any way to solve this problem other than using another phone? I have the same issue. I've been redoing a chronometer style application recently, and I get a wiggle in the time when I'm using Roboto Light. So yeah, you can change the font. You can choose not to just have it centered. You can fix the position.
Wiggle is a feature.
Wiggle is a feature. Drives me insane. I'm not quite sure. You know that it's not fixed width.
You could ask Christian why it's not fixed width, or should it be fixed width? It's open source. You could edit the glyphs, make it fixed width.
Especially if it's just the 0. I didn't know which character it was that was doing the shifting. But where have I got a good version on here?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be fixed width or not. I don't know.
Can you see it shifting? Can you see that bright white?
No.
At what point is it going to decide that this isn't all just white?
Oh, okay. The wiggle, the wiggle.
The wiggle, oh my god. Sneak preview of the new Ultimate Stop Watching Timer coming soon to the Play Store. See, I can promote my apps. This is brilliant. Thank you very much, Marie. Well, we're out of questions from the moderator, as far as I know.
And Patrick says, yeah, what is the developer benefit of Google Play Music? Right now, nothing.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I would say it drives users into the Play Store where they'll also find your applications.
That's true.
It increases traffic to the
more users
where your apps
with forms of payment on record,
yep.
So it's easier for them to buy your apps. This is true.
But if you're asking, yeah, direct integration, APIs, things like that, there aren't any.
There's no APIs or affiliate schemes or anything like that. Right.
It's certainly true that several times a week I go to Google Play and I look at music and it says get music for free, and I click on music for free and it says Google Play is not available in your country, or Google Play Music is not available in your country, and I say, okay, fine, I'll go download an app instead.
Can you use it to release the original soundtrack from your game? Yeah, and there's a scheme where you can sign up to sell the music that you made, you own. Yeah,
totally.
Much like you can as an app developer, there is a similar thing for music, for musicians.
Yeah, you can share music with people for free. You can ask people to buy music. There's a good ecosystem inside Google Music for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you're right. There are benefits to a developer. Yeah, it's that whole mall thing we're trying to develop with Google Play, right? We're trying to make Google Play this place you go to buy valuable content, and I think it's like a training thing for users, so people will get used to going there and spending money and having a trusted paid relationship with the store, and I think that's a really good thing for developers. So yeah, I was a bit too flippant before.
Actually, I haven't been checking the comment thread, so I'll just have a quick look to see if anyone's asked any questions on Google+. Can you recommend a Bluetooth keyboard for the Nexus 10? Haven't tried any, sorry. I have tried a Wacom tablet, and that worked very nicely with markers. But I haven't tried.
If anybody hasn't tried it, and you get the chance, try out the gesture typing. It's magical.
Huh. Okay.
If by anyone you mean you or us, the other
all the people who don't get access to it for the next couple of weeks haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. Even on the 10-inch tablet, which is perfectly big enough for touch typing, the gestures still work wonderfully.
I use both. I love the fact that you don't have to switch keyboard or anything like that, because like when I have two hands, I thumb, I tap out, and then when I have one hand, I swipe.
There's a really meta question in the comments. How do I post questions?
I saw that. There's a question in the message. Yeah, no, I think he's asking about where this chat stream is. Of course, it's inside the Hangout, so people from outside can't see it. We always try and read those questions out. But you can ask questions in the moderator at developers.google.com/live/Android.
Slash
or in the comment thread that you just asked the question in. Thank you.
Right. More specifically, that URL that Rich said, and then find this event.
Yeah.
And put it in the moderator for this event. Yeah.
Jamie was asking, maybe he missed it actually because he joined 14 minutes in, about the cache directory for multiple user accounts. Get external cache directory.
Yeah, if you're doing the right thing and you're getting you're calling the system calls to get the directories, then it should just work transparently to you.
And they're not shared, right?
No, yeah, it'll be individual per user.
When does 4.2 come for the Galaxy Nexus?
So basically only the external storage is shared between users?
No, the whole world, everything you use per user.
No one knows about the release date of Galaxy Nexus.
Yeah, we can't comment on release dates of Galaxy Nexus because we don't know. But typically what's happened in the past is it tends to be a couple of weeks. Like older devices will tend to get an OTA a couple of weeks after the newer devices go on sale.
Yeah, basically let the dust settle on the new stuff.
Yeah, so like 4.1 came out with the Nexus 7, right, in Google I/O, and then was what, a couple of weeks about that before it OTA'd to the Galaxy Nexus. I mean, that's been typical, but I don't know.
Both of these devices also have wired HDMI out of some sort or another, as well as the Miracast. The Nexus 10 has a micro HDMI slot on the side, and the Nexus 4 is using Slim port. Yeah, slim variety of DisplayPort, which adapters appear to be appearing on Amazon at the moment.
It's quite cool actually, because the HDMI MHL adapters always had to be powered, right? You always had to plug in a power source as well as an HDMI, whereas I believe the Slim port doesn't require the power, so it's just an adapter.
It doesn't require the power, but it still has a power socket on, so you can still charge your phone whilst it's plugged in, which is probably a good idea. But yeah, cool. The one that I've seen so far. So I'll be picking one of those up for presentation soon.
Another dongle to buy.
Another dongle to buy. And a new TV to buy with Miracast support, because I don't want to stick a inside.
It just blows my mind to think of using a phone to drive pictures onto my 42-inch TV.
Yeah, those TVs are pretty low res these days, right?
We are so living in the future.
I'm so excited about this, the two-screen API. I think it's going to drive a whole bunch of interesting apps.
I totally agree. The two-screen API, absolutely awesome. For gaming, for apps, presentation, even YouTube. Even YouTube. All these things can benefit a lot from dual-screen APIs.
So, yeah, the APIs haven't been released yet, but if you want to start thinking about it, basically you'll see the second screen is going to be a bit like a dialogue. So your app completely contains it. It's not like you can have one thing going on one screen and running another activity. They're entirely linked. So your app owns like a dialogue, which is on the big screen. So start thinking about that, how you might draw to another dialogue, as it were. And that will have its own context. So you'll load the right resolution, drawables, and things for the screen size and whatever of the TV it's running on.
Is there any compatibility layer for Google TV's second screen API?
Second screen API is just for like passing intents and saying go run this, right? It doesn't actually do a companion app type thing. I think it's a kind of a different problem with similar name.
Okay.
I think. Matt?
Virtual Matt Android. We should have him dialed in. I forgot to thank the guys at Sony developers, for giving me this T-shirt at DroidCon as well. Android attached. Thank you very much, Sony.
For that terrifying T-shirt.
It's kind of Halloween, right? We've got a Halloween theme going all over the office today. So a big Android crushing cities. I don't know. Seemed to work for me. And with that, it's the end of this week's Hangout. Thank you all for joining. We will see you again next Wednesday, 2 p.m. We're slightly shifted out of the US time zone right now because they changed their clocks at a different time to us.
So catch them in 7 hours, I guess, right?
Catch them in 7 hours. And have a good week.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.